Can you hear us? We can't hear you, but so we had initially thought that we would do a little invocation on our own, but we are happy that you're with us already, so we welcome you. Welcome all of you. It's wonderful that we are 77 people here who have committed to the next 7 weeks. That's quite something. And thank you for the rest of everyone else who's come here to hold us and help us to launch. So really grateful for your presence, for your commitment. What we're going to do is we're just going to give a small little introduction to the people who have not already. We've had an introduction session to the 77, but we haven't had to the other people who are sitting on the chairs at the back. And so I'm just going to briefly introduce them to what's going on here. And then we're going to do an invocation, which is a combination of Sri Aurobindo's, Savitri, and Richard's prayers from the Seven Sacred Seals. And then we'll start off and invite Richard to speak to us. So just for the people who are sitting, who are holding space for all of us over here, Elisa, you want to? You.
Okay, so Natasha is super shy since the very beginning, so she's handing over the mic while actually she's the initiator of all that, and she's also the organizer of
Recording in progress.
Okay. Good to know. So she's also the organizer. She's basically the heart, the mind, the doer, so a lot of gratitude to Natasha, and yes, so the intention, as Natasha was saying, is we start with an invocation really to energize the space, and then we will have a presentation from Richard and Pia about the Delta program, and then we will have some question and answers with them. And after, we will have a kind of setting our intentions together, our group intentions together. So today is really like the energetic launch of this collective program. And yeah, we are super happy and everyone is super welcome, and that's great. I mean, it's happening today. It's absolutely amazing.
So, what is nice is that in Auroville, we don't need to explain about what is unseen, because we've all come here to discover that, these parts of ourselves that are invisible, that are there, that are always present, and are holding us through all our actions. You can't hear? I should put the microphone closer. So the Delta program is really a it's a tool which helps the collective to go through a process of contemplation, which I'm so conscious that Richard is listening to this because he has to be telling you what it is rather than me. And Pia too. I mean, Pia heads the Delta program. So I think I'm just going to leave it to them, and I'm just going to launch straight into our invocation. I'll talk about Sri Aurobindo a little bit. So, Sri Aurobindo speaks about the 7 rays of the infinite, and he has described them in the Life Divine, and this is the light that sits within us, and it is our as Aurovillans, this is kind of the only task put before us, is to get in touch with the psychic being and to have access to this inner light. And so there's a kind of, Richard nicely puts it as, there's a valve. There's some kind of a valve that closes off this light. And if we go through a period, an extensive period, it doesn't actually have to be extensive, it can even be immediate, but collectively what we're going to do is we're going to go through a 7-week period of purification, which is really a kind of a commitment to an inner work. And it does require a lot of courage, because it is like a commitment to face our shadows, which is not easy. It's easier to stand in front of the JCB and face PKS than to stand in front of your own shadows. So that's what our launch is for, and that's why we are holding each other in this space to do it together, to give each other courage, to give each other strength along the way. And this invocation will help strengthen our contemplations, because we are calling upon that higher grace, and we are calling upon that aid to use us as instruments. So we're going to go straight into it, and we're calling upon, I need my glasses because I can't read without them. This is a little paragraph from Savitri. Our larger being sits behind cryptic walls. There is greatness hidden in our unseen paths, that weight there are to step into life's front. We feel the aid from deep indwelling gods. One speaks within, and this light comes to us from above. Our inner selves dwell in this larger light. We seek to align ourselves with the highest harmonies and the frequencies and intelligences of this light, that they may pierce us to the core of our being, opening us to the arch of the infinite and coaxing us softly into the arms of our essence. We make all 7 layers of our being available as a harp for your blessed fingers. Please attune and bring into harmony the multicolored strings of self. We come to invoke the Mother, that we may partake in her grace. We honor here the beautiful distinctiveness between each of the 7 and their specific streams of grace and enactment in the world. We open our visions to our divinity. We open ourselves to intense inner scrutiny. We come to view where we've come from, where we've reached, and how far is our goal. It is through your grace that we come to see what must be done. We see the truth of our spiritual labor without haze or corruption or self-delusion. This is the great cleansing. It is the great love that cuts through illusions, that shows us who we really are. We come to invoke the 7 rays of the infinite, that we may partake in their grace. We come before you naked and vulnerable, with all our wounds, our mistakes, our past karmas, visible and transparent. We hide nothing from the great light. We open our hearts, our minds, and our bodies before you. We offer you every living cell and atom. We offer you our desires, our dreams, our longings, our holy intention. We offer you our gifts and our talents, our siddhis and our divine genius. We offer you our pain, our loss, our forgetting, our fear. We offer you our sadness, our anger, our lust, our selfishness, our denial, our shame, and our cruelty, our guilt and our indifference. Especially, we lay before you these many challenges of our humanity for your transformation. Dear Mother and beings of the higher worlds, help us to bring this wish into form. We ask this in order to align more deeply to your higher purpose, so that we can be of greater service to the whole. Help us manifest the very highest possible potential within the limitations of this form. Purify our auras constantly in order for higher forces to work through us. We make our body, heart, and soul available for your pure emanations. Make us the instruments of your wisdom and your love and your truth.
We invoke the frequency of incandescence.
I'm just going to interrupt her. We're going to go through the 7 lights that dwell within us. And each person will read out one of those lights. And there's a lighter in your circle, and you can light one of the candles. And then when it moves to the next, you can light the next. So by the end of our invocation, we would have lit 7 candles within each of your delta circles.
We have traveled so long through tough terrain. We are tired and worn to the bone. There is nothing left in us, and all of a sudden, in the darkness, we see a tiny, far off beacon of warmth, a flame of hope. This is the ember of incandescence, a white gold emanation of our inner light that mythically cuts out the deepest roots of our ancestral karma. It can never be extinguished. No matter how great the surrounding darkness, no matter how oppressive the weight of our pain, this tiny spark remains. This is the inner light of deliverance that provokes, challenges, and transmutes the dragon within our DNA. That's the dragon dancing. This is a vanquishing light, although it does not conquer through force, but by the intensity of its love. The quality of incandescence is like a lonely candle flame burning in the window of a faraway home within the depths of an icy, dark winter landscape. Like a warm hearth, it calls you home from your many exhausting travels and trials. This imagery conjures up something of the texture of incandescence. I can't say it properly. Incandescence. I've tried it over and over before reading out loud to you guys, huh?
We invoke the frequency of phosphorescence, a sharp crystal blue emanation that burns like the all-seeing eye, representing the force that brings an end to suffering through absolute vision. This inner light glows softly, but with infinite precision, to allow the receiver to see the perfection of their presence within the universal story. At night, on a moonlit sea, when the wind drops and the stars twinkle, sometimes we may look down and see the phosphorescence, the countless millions of tiny sea creatures, a mirror of the heavens, shining their silent truth back at the stars. This light is the connective light between the sea and the stars, between the tiny and the vast, the ocean and the drop. This is the gentle aspect of this inner light. However, there is another side, seen in the incredibly bright, white, bluish light when phosphorus burns. Phosphorescence actually emerges from within human DNA, which is made up of phosphates, allowing us to feel how the web of the cosmos is stitched together in the fabric of an order so perfect that we can hardly hold that vision in our daily lives.
Yeah. Okay. We invoke the frequency of rubescence, the wonderful quality of red gold light. Everything that is alive hums with this radiant, warming light. Rubescence can be fanned and increased within the human organism by the presence of love. It is the afterglow of love. Indeed, this light is deeply soothing in the organism and can bring about miraculous healing through DNA repair. This inner light is also associated with the final goal of alchemy, the rubedo, the dawn of the crimson gold light of the philosopher's stone, the full awakening of a human being into their inner royalty.
We invoke the frequency of iridescence, a fiercely bright rainbow emanation that awakens, vivifies, and catalyzes breakthroughs on the inner planes. It's like a sudden visitation from a bright iridescent dragonfly. It has an almost electrical charge that constantly flickers and changes color, engendering a sense of playfulness and awe. We allow this light to spin within us, to visit every corner of our being, to seek out our pain and our baggage. We cannot help but feel enthused. We cannot help but be awakened. We cannot help but be inspired and illuminated, refreshed, moved, and provoked into action. We embrace the quickening that this light inevitably brings. We invoke it. We long for this life force, this inextinguishable inner light associated with children and the honoring of the divine inner child.
We invoke the frequency of pearlescence, a soft, subtle, silver gray emanation that, instead of radiating light, softens and diffuses all energy that it comes in touch with. Pearlescence has a deeply feminine quality, connected to the underwater world of pearls and mother of pearl. Pearlescence is the quality of mercy and forgiveness. We let this light ring through our cells. We invite its silent glint into our bones. We feel it inside us. We surrender our awareness, our heart, body, and mind into the diffusing light of forgiveness, and we let it wipe us clean as it moves down into the world of form.
We invoke the exquisite frequency of quiescence, whose emanation is beyond the colors of words. You might call it colorless, but it has more to do with silence. It is the color of silence, and its presence will stop all thoughts. Quiescence is about the utter rest and completion that comes after the revelation of truth. We let this crystalline light shine forth from our bones as each cell of our being recognizes the energy of its source. We radiate with silence, with a silence of utter, ineffable peace. We surrender uncontrollably to your peace, stilling us, dissolving our fear, our separation, melting us, calming us, making our bodies quiet, gentle, rested.
We invite luminescence to sparkle our life with miracles, to open, to enliven, to inspire, to sanctify all those we know, see, hear, think about, and connect to, akin to the white light of the outer senses that contains each of the hidden layers of the rainbow spectrum. Luminescence contains and gathers up all the other rays. Each ray is an emanation of divine grace, that wordless quality that passes human understanding, but that periodically visits the physical plane. The quality of luminescence is a royal cobalt blue emanation fringed with gold, like the dusk sea on a perfect spring night. We attune ourselves to this light, the blue-white radiance of an intelligence far beyond our own. May this flame draw us further along our evolutionary curve. May it shine brighter within our bellies. May it illumine the hidden jewels that lie behind our suffering. May it release the pure light and refine our perception to enter into the great mystery of the universe.
I think we've all had these moments when color comes alive for us, and it's in color that, there's a certain magic. I remember, I have a little story which is just amazing how, when we were standing on the road over there, when that piece of land was being taken over, and we were just waiting for something to happen, and suddenly a few Aurovillans came, and there was Fred, and there was Suhasini, and Auroville, and there were about 10 people, and they were all wearing blue. And I thought to myself, how is that possible? Is there like a, what happened over there? Did they plan it? Are they like a, rescue brigade? And it was just completely coincidental. And I'm sure we've all experienced these kind of stories when even in our outer world, it comes alive. So this is the magic that we're going to enter into, which we already are in, but just, be more conscious of it and enter into it for the next 7 weeks. It's a great privilege and an honor to have Richard and Pia with us. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for your generosity, for gifting our community this tool in our time of need and crisis. The timing is just perfect. I think it's going to be a wonderful adventure for the Gene Keys community to cross paths here with Auroville. We welcome you into our space. And I hand it over to you, Richard. Richard, everybody knows Richard. He's the founder of the Gene Keys and the father, mother of the Delta. And Pia heads the Delta team, and she's really the mother, if I may say so, of the Delta. and Pia also has a wonderful connection to us because she has been part of Findhorn. And I think through that connection, somehow it came to be that this tool has arrived in Auroville right now when we need it. So I'm going to hand it over to Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Natasha. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Brilliant, thank you. And thank you all for that beautiful readings and invocation. And thank you for giving your time and your energy and your love and your trust into exploring something new. I'm very thrilled to be connecting with you and your community, and have always wanted to visit Auroville. I haven't yet had that privilege, and I'm sure I will, especially now. And I've always felt a very strong, deep, resonant connection with Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and the teachings that emanated from those two and into your community, and the divine energy that lives behind all of you, and the place and the presence. And so I'm excited because you are the first community outside the Gene Keys to experiment and explore with these, with the Delta. And so it's a great moment, I think, and auspicious, very auspicious. And really because the teachings that hold Auroville and your community are, as we've seen, very embedded and connected to the same teachings of the Gene Keys and the Delta especially. And just listening to those invocations of the light, of the subtle realms of light, and how when we enter into the inner world, the invisible world, light operates in a different way from how it operates in the outer world. And there are many more dimensions and layers within light and within these 7 rays. And so I love how you have, Natasha, helped weave together the teachings of the 7 seals and the Delta, which are both connected through the number 7. And the number 7 is really important because it is the divine number. Humans have always known this. In our folklore, we always say number 7 is the lucky one. And the mathematicians will also tell you about its special, unusual traits. But we also measure time through the number 7, through the 7 days. And we measure light, as we've seen, through the 7 rays of the spectrum. And we also measure musically through the 7 notes of the octave. And so when you see all of that framework, you realize that this is a divine coding. And so when this teaching transmission was first delivered to me, it was a strange story that I was teaching a course on the edge of the River Severn, and which is in Wales and in the UK. And it's even called the River Severn Delta, where it comes wide. I didn't realize this till afterwards. And then this magical transmission came to me, and I shared it with the group. It came to me in the night, and I shared it with the group the next day. And the next day we started the first Delta experiment. And it's a magical process. You know, what you're about to do is a magical process. And as Natasha said, it's also, it has challenges, because what we're doing is we are agreeing, it's a very important thing to realize this, we are agreeing to share our karma for these 7 weeks. And since you're also doing all of it together as a community, you could extend that to the whole of your community. You're agreeing to share karma as a community and as 11 sevens. And then you can extend further to the world. But that's, you know, so for the moment, just understand, just agreeing to sharing the karma that comes up in a group of 7 is a very powerful thing to do. And what I saw and have understood in myself is that a group of 7 humans, or, you know, of 7 beings, is a divine unit in itself. It's like in itself is one unit. And so a 7 is a 1. And you will see this, I hope you'll experience this, the magic part of the Delta, in the mysterious 8th energy, being the divine or the divine mother, the 8th, the octave, or the white light, you know, or the timeless dimension. And so that presence, that divine presence, is what moves through the Delta, orchestrating, tuning, singing through us, bringing things up, like you hear in those light, those different frequencies of light will bring things from the invisible realm to the surface. And then we can share them with each other in trust, in sacred presence. And that's the simplicity of the process, is that the process does the work for us. All we need to do is fully own whatever is occurring inside us and share it openly as best as we can. And then for the rest of us, we receive that again as best as we can, with the open hearts and open minds. And then that is what creates the transmutational field so that the karma can be purified. And it's a stepping stone to our future evolution, which Sri Aurobindo has spoken of many times. You know, the future evolution, the supramental mind, this higher consciousness that one day will experience itself fully operational through the collective. But in the process of awakening as a collective, it starts in these units of 7. And so we are experimenting in a way, playing a game. I was shown this as like in the spirit of a game, of a Leela, to enter into a 7-week Leela, a game, a theater, a drama. And in those 7 weeks to trust absolutely the different things that come to the surface and the relationships that kind of deepen through the process. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased and happy that you have taken this on. And I want to kind of invite you all to bring your own energy into the Delta, and your own insights and your own questions and curiosity, and explore it and stretch yourself into it. And I would love to hear back from many of you and all of you of how the process has been when you get to the end of 7 weeks. And Pierre will probably talk about what happens at the end, and what can happen, and the actual process itself, which I would say Pierre is a master of and has more experience than I even. So I hope that this program is very fruitful for all of you, and for and that it will open your hearts, open your minds, and attune you to even more deeply to the subtle realms, and that we can then take that energy and begin to pour it out into the world. And again, there are other layers to the Delta, which you may or may not have heard of yet, and that hasn't been even explored yet by our community, the next stages after the sevens. And it is an experiment in collective awakening, and in building coherence in any community. And so I'm really curious as to how that happens in your community, and maybe keep your ears open to other things moving through your community at this time, and see how perhaps they're connected to the process that you're all going through. So I think that's all I want to say, but I want you to all know that I'm available here as well. And if you need anything from me, and you can, I'm sure questions will come up through the journey, and you can ask Pierre and I, and we'll do our best to answer them and offer you support. And I really look forward to coming there in person and being among you one day. Let's pray that day will be coming soon. So thank you all from my heart to all of your hearts.
Pia, you will share your Delta experience with us?
Yes, I'd be. And first of all, I want to say I am absolutely thrilled. I'm so excited that this is happening. As Natasha mentioned, I spent nearly 30 years living and working at Findhorn, so community is very close to my heart. And I am hoping that we may also, when we've got some experience with you're the pioneers of community deltas, but that has from the very beginning been my biggest vision, that it'll help communities. And of course, we are all a global community of humans. So beyond that, but particularly those brave pioneers, some of us who live actively and have engaged and committed to live closely in community. I'm sure you know as well as I do that doesn't come without challenges at times. And then I'm just sitting here noticing the feeling of a community coming together, and the love that's shared, and the community, which is the beauty and the kind of the gifts that we also receive on that journey. And so Natasha said, like, I'm the mother of the Delta, and in many ways I feel that way. Richard invited me, that's a long time ago by now, but to come in and kind of be coordinating or heading the Delta. And what I love more than anything is that my own experiences of the beauty and the magic and the power of the Delta. And beyond that, to actually hold space and to be here, and my inner commitment to the Delta. It's a huge privilege and honor. And I do love the mother role of supporting when I can, which is also organizing, supporting, and yeah, so that's my joy. So please do reach out for support when you need it. So that's a little of me here. Practically, you have at least all of you who have registered so far, and we're still missing a few. So this is a plea to those who have not yet registered. I know we have another team, and you will get coupons shortly and instructions on how to register. But there's still a few people who have got the coupons. Please register as soon as possible. So if you encounter any challenges, which some of you unfortunately have, then we can sort them out as easily and gracefully and quickly as possible. But once you have registered, you will have access to a whole course that guides you step by step through the whole journey. And of course, Natasha is part of it. So I know she can also answer quite a few of your questions, but do reach out to me and Richard if need. But if it's practical, try me first. Come to mother first when there's a knee that needs a little plaster or a kiss. So metaphorically. But I invite you to really go through the steps, and Richard has a beautiful video at the beginning, and I have a more practical one that'll guide you through. And then what you do is that as you move through this dance of 7 weeks, each week, each of you will contemplate a particular life theme and a particular gene key. And there's video and an audio for each week that we invite you to listen to. Each position is also related to part of our bodies, the physical, the astral, the mental. So all the 7 subtle bodies. So have that awareness as well as you move through it. And there are links to also I'm sure all of you are aware of that. So you might be you may already know, but it might be inspiring to see Richard's short videos where he explains and describes the subtle bodies. But your task for each week is to align and attune yourself as clearly as you can with that position, that area of your life, the transmission, the wisdom that comes through the gene key. And you do that on behalf of the whole. So you really each, as I see it, you become, and that's also one of the symbolism of this is the wind harp. You become as a string on the harp, and there's a divine consciousness that plays through you at the highest levels. And of course, sometimes we're a little out of alignment. The string is not quite poised. It's not clear. We may, as Natasha said, we may encounter some shadows, some issues, some challenges, both within the team, but also within maybe just our daily life. Have the courage, be brave, and give your attention to that. Because that's the real, that's where the karma transmutes. This is the unique opportunity for each of you to really clear karma, transmute karma in your own life, and you're doing on behalf of the community. And you may notice that you will be connected synchronistically and on the subtle levels with all 77 people, all the other 10 deltas. And that energy will likely, hopefully, also begin to spread out through the whole of your community. And that's the real power and beauty. But you're holding the space. You're in a way offering yourselves wholeheartedly to this process of transmutation on behalf of the whole. So, and I've experienced that firsthand. And as I said, it's a privilege, it's an honor, and you may face some challenges along the way. So I think this is the most important I want to say, because the rest is really described step by step. It's important that you meet within your little team of 7, that you meet and share every week, and that you have a way of communicating. I mean, you can go have a cup of tea with each other, but that you actually formally set up a time each week to meet. And we have, and that's really to share about the experience, our own personal experience of what's happening in this week. We're kind of shining a light on our everyday life. And that's 24/7, that's dream world, the breakfast, dinner in the community, whatever it is, all the encounters, that's part of the Delta. And it's important to come together and share, because in that sharing, it becomes more conscious. You make it conscious, and you make it conscious for yourself personally, but also for the collective of you seven. And you may notice that you will each have a starting position, which may be a little more personal as well, because that'll be an underlying theme throughout the 7 weeks that you will notice. And the other aspect of this is that for 6 of the 7 weeks, you will have a partner. So it's also, and their positions are kind of, they're harmonizing there, but they can also, like if you're in one position a little out of balance, that will be felt by your partner, and you will support each other. And it's important that you stay connected also actively and share and support, because when you support each other also in your pairs, that also has an impact, and it radiates out to the whole of your team. So these are the practical. So there is certainly a time commitment as well as an inner commitment to this. So there's the weekly partner meetings. For 6 out of the 7 weeks, there's the meeting with a partner. And then there's the listening to the videos, the audios. Some of you may have the Gene Keys book. If you have, or you can share it around. There's more information in that about the Gene Keys, or each of these 7 Gene Keys. It's not essential. You have everything you need in the course, online course. At the end of the 7 weeks, we actually have there's 7 active weeks, and then there's an 8th week where you integrate and settle, and there is actually an 8th Gene Key. That's what Richard talked about, the holding, the mother, the octave, the light, the white light. And that's described in there as well. But I encourage you to have the 7 kind of active weeks, and then give yourself another week of integration. And as Richard said, and that's true for me as well, we'd love to come together with you maybe after 8-9 weeks, by the end of wherever it works out, and hear your feedback, hear your sharing, and in a way have a bit of a celebration of this journey that you have taken on behalf of yourself and also your whole community. And and I have, not to put any expectations out here, but I have great hope, and I have a sense of this can be really powerful for both for Auroville, but also to begin to bring it out to other communities. So yeah, so I'm delighted and very pleased to be here. I think that's I'll be with you the whole way in the background, and my heart will be holding you. So yes, very exciting. So I think that's what I want to say for now. Thank you very much. And thank you to each and every one of you for stepping in, to kind of taking the gauntlet thrown down from the higher realms of the Delta as the first community in the world. Thank you. And we are open for questions, and I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Richard.
I think you've said beautifully, Pia. And one word I'll leave with, which is sincerity. I think if you can go into this at the beginning with sincerity, that you really are going to give it everything, it's only 7 weeks. It will go past so fast, and you'll be here in 7 weeks, and we'll be like, I need more. We need more. We need to do it again. And probably for many of you that may happen. So go in with real sincerity and at the beginning, and stay with that commitment to the process as much as you can, and it will really help you and the deltas. Thank you.
I'm not sure if you can see us, but there's a lot of gratitude here, and there's a lot of gesturing of gratitude around the room. I'm going to open the space up for questions, if anybody has any. I'm also very tempted to ask Richard to say a few words about the great change. I know that's a big topic, but I think it's pertinent, and yeah, if there's a little bit that you can say about that, that would be good.
Would you like me to do that now?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll go for the
Okay.
questions after.
I'll be brief then. Well, I think, that we are all feeling this, and that everyone in your community will, I'm sure, be very attuned to this epoch that we're moving into. And so the old epoch that's passing away, and then a new epoch that is dawning. And that's a process over many hundreds of years. And in my teachings, I call it the great change. And it's a time of, on the outside, falling away of many structures, and collapse and decline of many old models and paradigms. And I'm sure you know this. And on the inside, the opposite, it's a time of great opening to the inner world. And so great hope and great certainty and great love and great breakthroughs can occur at this time. And it's very easy to get fixated on what's going on the outside, especially when more fear keeps coming, and more chaos and more decline. And probably more and more is needed in order for the light to dawn truly in the heart of humanity. And I'm sure it will take many hundreds of years for us to make the transition and begin to settle into a new, this new awareness, this collective awareness. And we're very close now, though, to that time of intense change. And the waves of that change, like contractions of the mother giving birth, come closer and closer together and become more and more intense. And then there are moments of release or waiting in between those waves. And so the Delta also is a part of that journey. It's a part of a modeling a new way of being in the world, a new way of being together, a new way of being in community. And in one respect, the Delta's highest purpose is to then bring different communities together and mix them and blend them, so that it breaks open the silos of different thinking, so that our minds, even though they get used to one way of thinking, and our hearts, then they have to keep on expanding when other ways of thinking come in, and it's not just thinking, but it's seeing and viewing the world, and different languages and cultures coming together, and different genders and different, all of those things, the fluidity of all of those things coming together. And that's part of this time of exploring what happens when all these very different, diverse energies come together, and how do we find a harmony in that diversity, in the beauty in that diversity, all those colors again, all those colors of culture coming together, all those tones of sound coming together to form music. And that's what the great change is. It's a time of cacophony, turmoil on the outside, but on the inside, the tuning in of the beautiful higher harmonies that lie underneath creation, that lie underneath everything, the divine harmonies. And to realize those divine harmonies and embody them, we have to go through this meltdown. We have to go through this whirlwind. In Gene Keys, we call it the whirlwind, in order that the new can emerge like the phoenix in the ashes of the old. So that's really what we mean by the great change and this incredible time that we're alive in. So it's great what you're doing here. Any questions, I guess, for me or Pia?
Good evening. I'm Vani. I don't fully understand how is the process with the position. For example, on the first week, I meet the same partner, but then one time my partner is in position 4, and me, I am after in position 6. So I understand that we have to share, but how do we share? I mean, what is the difference of sharing between, because of the position, is that there is rules, there is so just organically, or?
There are no rules, there are guidelines. So really to help, and it also helps you focus your sharing so it doesn't just become like small talk or just your day. So you really focus when you come together to share. There's an energy where the different the two positions that are paired, they are kind of two sides of the same thing, or they balance each other. So you come together, you focus. If you're in the 6th position, you are focusing on higher thinking, like you're really focusing on your thoughts and how to clarify. So you'll have some experiences, you may have some challenges. I certainly did. So you will share that, what's happening, and make it so you have a gene key. It probably become a bit more obvious when you have a gene key because there's a focus that comes in with that gene key. But you will be sharing with each other what's happening about what's coming up for you in your daily life. What insight, you may have an insight like, oh, I suddenly realized how much my mind is going around in circles. Hopefully that's not the case, but it has been at times for me. And then I find a way where I can actually discipline and calm and quieten. You may have much more experience with that in being in Auroville. But it's those experiences when I have an insight that something shifted. My mind is clear, it's quiet. I can share that, and I can also share that then something happened and I went straight back to my old pattern. So this is in a way very practical. You share about with the focus of the position, and each of the, as I said, each of the positions, each of the gene keys are related to one of the bodies. So the 6th position is the atomic, so that's the higher mind, but there's also one that's related to the mental, the 3rd position. So you can see each of these positions will have a focus. So it's really your experiences of your daily life within that focus. And that's when you are having a conversation with your neighbor, or you're going through your daily work. It's running in the background, or it may be a dream that you have that you suddenly realize something or make something much clearer. Does that help?
Little bit.
Little bit, yes. Ask more.
Maybe because you keep speaking about Jinki, and I think I still didn't incorporate what Jinki is. So
yes, I think that we need to go back to, so with the course, so you will start in a certain position. That week, when we say you start in the 6th position, so your focus will be on the 50th gene key. And so there's a gene key is an archetype, and it has a frequency band. So it has a shadow, that's our challenges. In a way, it's our suffering in life. It moves through, in a way, that the shadows are the driving force for our evolution. So it also have as a gift, which is in a way the seed that's sprouting into a beautiful plant. That's the everyday when my life is more harmonious, it's working smoothly. That's the gift. And then it has a city, which is divine gift. So it's an ascended higher frequency. which most of us will experience in glimpses, but it is that when we have transcended all our suffering and come to the end of, in a way, our evolution, then we will all be embodying the city frequency. But we all live in a way on that band, and we move in and out. And it's important to know that we focus on the highest frequencies, and yet we own the shadows. I own when I encounter something, when I judge somebody, or when I get upset, or when I react in some way to something that happens. And the gene key so you will listen, there's videos and audios. You will watch the video and you will listen to the audio, and it'll help you focus each week. Yeah, we need to, it's very good point that it's so easy to take for granted that we come from like knowing what the gene key is, and I apologize for not making that clearer. Is there something you want to add, Richard?
Well, that's very good. Yeah, I think it's, a gene key just gives you the theme of that week. It's a theme, so you can look out for that theme. So if the theme is a theme of conflict, you'll be looking out for the theme of conflict, and you'll be listening, and you'll be realizing, wow, what's behind conflict, and how can I transform that conflict? And I could transform that into a gift, and whatever the key is, the gene key gives you a word, 3 words, and some ideas, and to really give you the theme so that you can embody that theme. Yeah.
I mean, we have a very mixed group here of people in terms of the knowledge of the gene keys, and throughout the 7 weeks, we will send material, and I will be available for guidance, and we can have some sessions where we understand a bit better about, the layout of the gene keys and how it, its overall, and then also a little bit about when it connects to the delta. So I'm happy to take you all through that, and in your weekly meetings, if you ever need a facilitator, not that you need one, definitely you don't need one, but if you need a little bit of help, I'm always available here in Auroville as well to ask at these, what is it that we have to share in our sharing meetings, so we can come to all this as we go along also. But it's really lovely to hear it directly from Richard and Pia as well. I'm going to pass the mic.
I'd like to just add that there is a section called Sharing in the Delta. And it's really important that each and every one of you read through that, because there are some guidelines, both on what can be challenging, but also how do we share. I'm sure that you already know a lot of that, living in community, that you listen to each other respectfully and speak from the heart. But there are some more suggestions on how to share in the Delta that I highly encourage you to do that. There are also some attunements that I recorded that you can play both for the partner meetings, but also when you come together as a team, and they kind of set the tone and invite you into the space of the Delta. So use all the resources that's in the course, and be kind to yourself. It may take a while to get the sense of it, and actually, at the end of the 7 weeks, you have lifetime access to the Delta course, and many teams have continued to do another 7 weeks and another 7 weeks. So there's no end. I think the champion Delta flyer has done 10 Deltas. Wow. I've done 7. And each time it goes deeper and something happens. You can do that with the same team, or you can even shuffle up within your community, or some people may not want to do that. But so just be understanding and compassionate and kind to yourselves. If something like, oh, I don't understand this, it's okay. Ask questions and take it step by step.
Thank
that's
you
my
for that.
interpretation.
Thank you for that. It gets clearer and clearer the more time I think we spend with it. The website I find incredible. It's such a great resource, so rich. I've made myself not fully go in because I want to kind of pace myself. But I just realized sitting here that we had decided that we would start the week of the 11th, right? So that's Sunday. But no, so the thing is we already have our meeting, which will be on Tuesday. We've already made our arrangement. But if we don't start until Sunday, we'll only have like 2 days of experience in that position to share. So am I missing something? Ah, okay. Natasha, can you say that to everybody? Because maybe I'm not the only one who's wondering about that.
No, as a community, as the whole of Auroville, our 11 deltas, we're starting in the week between the 11th and the 17th. Each group will probably start on a different day of the week, and that's okay. That's when your group starts. But we are all synchronizing the entire week, and you get into your position from that day. So if you start on a Tuesday, it will be Tuesday to Tuesday. So everybody gets a whole week of being in the position. Is that clear?
Is it advisable to listen to the content before or from the moment we start during the week? That is not so clear for me.
You in the first meeting, you get into your first position, and then you have the whole week to listen to the material. And then the next sharing, you would have already listened to the material, and you share based on that. So in the first meeting, you don't have to, you can just listen to the introductory part. There's an introduction, but you don't listen to the material of the first position. You want to add something to all these answers, or?
I'd just like to add, I just reiterate, please go through, watch the introductory videos and just get a sense and read about sharing in the Delta before your first meeting. That's the most important.
Yeah.
So you have a sense of what it is you are stepping into. Then each of the positions, that all the materials in there you can do as you go through the weeks and the positions. But there's a whole section, there's a few topics within the introduction, plus the sharing in the Delta, that I really encourage you to go through beforehand.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the most important thing about the Delta really is it's a somatic experience. It's a physical experience. It's very physical. It's emotional. It's, you know, so it's not about learning having to learn a lot of information. It's not about that. You don't have to understand the gene keys. You don't have to go to the gene keys website. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Only the materials that you have for your Delta, for your week, are applicable to you. And even if you didn't read them, but you just knew the theme, that would already be more than enough for you to have the experience. So I would just invite you not to worry about the information side, because it's not about learning more stuff. It's really just about sinking into the actual experience of the community experience together. I hope that helps.
So I have two questions. One is to clarify the answers that came in from Vani's first question. Does that mean that we're actually meeting 3 times in the week? Once as a whole group, once as a partner, and one as the pair? Because our name is there. Let's say my name is in second week, position 2 in bold, and then position 7 in italic. So
I'll clarify that. If you look at that, you will realize that's the same 2 people.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Okay, I hadn't noticed.
So
I was reading through it very attentively, though.
Yes, yeah, you went into the details. So
Thank you. Okay, so that was one
the
thing.
person in position 7 is your partner, so you're the
All
same
right.
2 people will meet once. Yeah.
I didn't notice. Okay, thank you. There are no stupid questions, right?
No, just clarifying questions.
And I sort of blanked on my second question. Oh, yes. The second question was, we said that, if I understood well, we're starting from the 11th on, right? Does that mean that in between now and the 11th we don't meet? We don't meet with our group next week? We would only meet the week after? Just so, what is the exact answer? We're welcome to meet, but
I think you can meet. I think it's nice to meet, just get to talk with each other and get to know each other a little bit more and discuss things. And often we do that, don't we, Pierre? We invite people, you know, because some of the time people are coming together and they don't know each other at all. And so having a few weeks just to get to know each other before you begin is quite a powerful thing to do.
Just a minute.
Hi. Very, very happy to see you, Richard. Have been following you for like 3 years, so it's like a dream come true for me. So there are 64 gene keys, and we are picking up 7. And I'm curious to know what's the significance of these 7 gene keys that have been picked up as a group for this particular Delta course. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, you know, the gene keys represent the universal mind and the attributes of the universal mind. And so there are so many combinations of keys that can lead to all kinds of manifestations and revelations. And so this is one of them. These 7, they happen to be the underpinning of the musical nature of the universe. This is why it's very musical. It's like a music, and it's like a dance, and it's like an embodied experience. And you might even like to dance it at some point, you know, because, yeah, so those 7 keys are all aspects of the musical nature of the universe, you know, and that's all I would say. But you can take all kinds of combinations of keys and they lead to different revelations.
I'd like to just briefly add to that, because it's also, because it is somatic, it's experiential. You allow yourself to be creative. You don't need, it's so easy to share with words. So also with your partners, you can share with words, but you can also, it can be poetry, it can be painting, it can be dancing, it can be anything, but allow yourself to also be creative and play with this in whichever way emerges naturally and from within inside you. And again, some people that's not easy, and others it comes very naturally. But whatever feels natural and good to you, and what just comes up from inside, that's what you share with your group and with your partners.
So I'm still trying to get clear about the first meeting. We're not having read Gene Keys yet. We're just meeting and reading the introductory material. So does week 1 start after that? That's where I'm confused.
I can maybe respond to that. The meeting where you decide to start the Delta, that's when the first week starts. So the first meeting where, so you, if I understand, the ideal is so that this is synchronized. So you are kind of flying in unison. You will start somewhere between the 11th and the 18th. So if you start, your team starts on the Tuesday, whatever that day is, 13th. Then that day you come together with your team and you step into your positions. And that's where I have created this little attunement that will actually guide you to take your place, your step into this position. And that's when your Delta starts. That's when your first position starts. Is that clearer, I hope?
I'm going to just urge you, we've got another 5 to 10 minutes, maximum 10 minutes, but if the questions can be things that I can't clarify, then we can put them to Richard and Pia, because these kind of things we can work out between ourselves about the meeting times and dates and when we start and all. But if there's anything else, it's a good moment.
Kind of a question, curiosity, and a bit of an anxiety about hundreds of years before the change?
Yeah, no, I didn't say hundreds of years before. I said the transition itself can take hundreds of years, because evolution is, I mean, as a collective for the whole of humanity to go through such a change, that's a big ask. We're at different levels of evolution. And so some of us are further up the ladder, if you could say it like that, than others. So for some of us, certain communities, certain groups, certain individuals, partnerships, families, groups, the awakening can come much quicker and will come earlier. Just like in the spring, there are some flowers that come very early, and then slowly the spring energy builds and more flowers bloom and more bloom, and then everything is blooming. But that doesn't mean that you aren't one of the early ones. So don't be disheartened.
Richard, would you like to say something about 2027?
Sure, yeah. In the Gene Keys world of mapping and looking at numerologies and figures and astrological things and timings, there's a timing of the end of the kind of closing of one epoch and the beginning of a new epoch. And it's been since 1987, this process of transition. And then in 2027, there's a kind of, you could say, the opening of the final component, the final area of this transformation at an internal level, at a Gene Keys structural level, perhaps. And so the prophecies around that date from Human Design as another system and Gene Keys are that that is a time after which we might begin to see children being born in the world, babies that have a slightly different DNA and that have a different operating system that will allow them to begin to flourish more in the collective intelligence, and that those children may start appearing more and more over the generations, because they are our future vehicles. And some of them prototypes already here and have been coming here for some time. But that was a kind of prophetic part of the teachings. But it's, again, it's not it's an unknown area, because one only has one's intuition and one's higher spiritual illumination and guidance to know these things in the future. But it's a very important date, because there's a transition from one set of keys to another set of keys, Gene Keys, that open up an entirely new epoch. And that epoch is the epoch of freedom. And so it's a very, if you do want to explore this more, if you're interested in this question, and there's some Gene Keys books circulating in your community, you could share them. Then you might want to read Gene Key 55, and the two you might want to read are 55 and 22. You'll probably come across them anyway. But 55 is the one that describes this change and describes the prophecy of it and what it might look like and how it might overtake us. And so I think that's a nice way of finding out a bit more.
And the Siddhi for 22 is grace, and the Siddhi for
Yes.
55 is freedom.
Not an urgent practical question, but more for a curiosity from some depth inside. I'm very touched by the image of the geese, flying geese. Could you say something more on that?
Yeah, I mean, Pierre, you might. Pierre has lived many years in Findhorn, where the geese are like a major feature of the landscape, and it was an image that came quite soon after the revelation of the delta, that the notion of the geese, where they fly in this shape, it's a delta shape, and the single goose at the front holds the energy of the formation, and then the two wings give support, and then they switch, they keep moving so that the one at the front has a rest and goes down the line, and then the next one comes. And that's how the delta works. It's that working in communion, together. And that person in number one position is always alone. And it's very important position when you're in number one position, because you don't have a partner in that week. It's a time for you to go deep into your own aloneness and really go into the deep physical form and the body and into the nature of your embodiment and the divine itself. So it's a week of seclusion. It would be really a lovely thing to do, or just some time, or maybe you decide not to speak, or maybe you decide just to have more meditation time in that week, or whatever you want to do. It can be physical as well. You can be doing physical things. You can, it doesn't matter. That there's lots of advice given in the materials, but it's a very important week because you're flying at the head of the formation, and everyone else is focusing their energy on you in a way in that week. So yeah, it's a powerful metaphor.
I'd just like to add one thing, which is the quality of support. Like with the geese, like the one in the head is having that support of the others. And that's really what the 6 other positions, the 6 other players are giving their undivided support and attention in a way to the person in position 1. And that's on a subtle level. It's not like I'm coming to, because there is that aloneness, but it's a real opportunity to train the subtle, the awareness of the subtle energies and the subtle connections. So I focus, and in a way, that's what we do when we love each other, when we think of somebody else with love or with that level of support. But it becomes very tangible in the delta, or it can do for the person in position 1. It can be good practice for the others, but it also can be actually very tangible that I'm on my own, I'm focusing on my own task, and I have 6 other people supporting me on that very subtle level. It can be very powerful.
Okay, we maybe close it up to this, unless there's a burning question.
Burning question. So in the Gene Keys, you speak about contemplation, concentration, and meditation, right? And you just spoke about being alone and in your aloneness and doing these things. We are a very busy community. It's community life, Sometimes you don't have control over an interaction. It just happens. And what I've noticed is moving from a time where there was COVID and there was a lot of seclusion, especially for me, moving from that time, when I was introduced to the Gene Keys, I had a lot of time to myself and in my own space. But I moved to this community, and there's suddenly so many interactions happening. And I saw there was a shift where I couldn't really do the work, contemplate enough or concentrate enough or meditate enough. I'm just curious to know what your thoughts on how we can cultivate that practice in a community, doing it with a group of people, and still making that progress, because it's easier said than done. Thank you.
Can I add just a very quick thing, and then I'll pass it on to you, because I'm very familiar with this. And what I've learned, and that's actually the beauty of the Delta, is I can be in my aloneness. I can have my focus inward whilst in the middle of my daily work, or even in a conversation or in a communication. It's not that I'm not present for the other person, but I can still have that very grounded presence. So I think for me, it's as much about presence, because not everybody does have the luxury of going into a week's retreat. Most people don't. And it's really important with the Delta that it's practical part of everyday life. So you take that contemplation, and the contemplation is really what happens in your interactions, as I said, also in your dreams, in your everyday life. And beyond that, of course, there's more, but that's the beauty between concentration, where you focus your mind, or you focus absolutely, or meditation, where you're going completely inward. Contemplation is that daily dance of everyday life, where that makes it very practical today. And Richard, I'm sure you have something else to add to that.
Thank you, Pia. I think just a trust in the synchronicity of the position that you're in and what's going on in your life in that week or in that period. That there's some lesson in everything. So if you're in the one position and then you think this is a time to be alone, but then it's your busiest week of the year, you have to listen to that and trust that and go, well, how am I going to, as Pia said, how am I going to have both of those things at the same time? And then you're going to give yourself in service in some way. You're going to change inside yourself. Okay, it doesn't have to be that kind of seclusion. It's just, this is the time for me to give my heart to this task or this group or this community or this service. So find a way to trust what's going on and listen to what's the message that's coming through from the synchronicity, because the Delta is all about synchronicity. That's the magical eighth part, the breath, the wind, as Pia said, the wind that's blowing through the harp, that's shaping our experience, and it's giving us exactly the experience that we need to learn from. And that's why we have that theme to look at. So I think you'll find a lot of inspiration from dropping into that level of trust.
Do we feel complete? Yes. Thank you very much. I think we're ready. We're ready. Are we ready? Yeah. We're ready. So we're going to close this evening before we go for soup. We've all set intentions that we want to put into the atmosphere. We've got our little bags here on the cushion where we can write our intentions on our papers and put your group intention into the bags, which we can hang on our tree and let the wind catch it.
Yeah, so normally you have written your personal intention on a small paper, but right now let's have 2 minutes of silence all together, holding our personal intention. It's our words, our vibration, so let's own, let's feel, let's sense our personal intention together in our space for 2 minutes.